During the whole of a dull, dark, and soundless day in the autumn of the year, when the clouds hung oppressively low in the heavens, I had been passing alone, on horseback, through a singularly dreary tract of country, and at length found myself, as the shades of the evening drew on, within the view of the melancholy house of Usher. I know not how it was, but with the first glimpse of the building a sense of insufferable gloom pervaded my spirit. I say insufferable, for the feeling was unrelieved by any of that half pleasurable, because poetic sentiment with which the mind usually receives even the sternest natural images of the desolate or terrible. I looked upon the scene before me, upon the mere house and the simple landscape features of the domain, upon the bleak walls, upon the vacant eye-like windows, upon a few rank sedges, and upon a few white trunks of decayed trees, with an utter depression of soul which I can compare to no earthly sensation more properly than to the after dream of the reveler upon opium, the bitter lapse into everyday life, the hideous dropping off of the veil. There was an iciness, a sinking, a sickening of the heart, an unredeemed dreariness of thought, which no goading of the imagination could torture into aught of the sublime. What was it? I paused to think. What was it that so unnerved me in the contemplation of the house of Usher? It was a mystery all insoluble. Nor could I grapple with the shadowy fancies that crowded upon me as I pondered. I was forced to fall back upon the unsatisfactory conclusion that while, beyond doubt, there are combinations of very simple natural objects which have the power of thus affecting us, still the analysis of this power lies among considerations beyond our depth. It was possible, I reflected, that a mere different arrangement of the particulars of the scene, of the details of the picture, would be sufficient to modify, or perhaps to annihilate, its capacity for sorrowful impressions, and, acting upon this idea, I reined my horse to the precipitous brink of a black and lurid tarn that lay in unruffled luster by the dwelling, and gazed down, but with a shudder even more thrilling than before, upon the remodeled and inverted images of the gray sedge, and the ghastly tree stems, and the vacant and eye-like windows. Thus begins The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. Now, this video is going to be in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one, it will be in the short story discussion playlist. Number two, it will be in the Edgar Allan Poe playlist. We are here in the midst of October, and we will have three videos on Edgar Allan Poe on this channel every week of October. For this week is so long as I can get my stuff together and get the video put together that is going to be Poe's darkest poem. Emily Dickinson's darkest poem was a video that I put up last week, and I am very proud of. So if you are into poetry, if you enjoy Emily Dickinson, if you're just a fan of the macabre in general, consider checking out that video. So what we're going to have is three different sections in this video. We're going to have a So What Happened, which is a recap of the story. We're going to have a literary, why can't I speak today? A lit crit portion of the video where we talk about the literary stuff involved, and finally a writer's corner where we talk about some of the craft and writer stuff that we can learn from this short story by Edgar Allan Poe. So, what happened in the fall of the House of Usher? As our speaker approaches the house of Usher, a feeling of malaise washes over him. He's there to see his old friend, the proprietor, Roderick Usher. The family, as well as the mansion, have always been kind of strange, and Roderick, his childhood friend, was always a bit quieter than most kids. And the peasantry around the mansion tell sort of spooky stories about the mansion and the family. Roderick is severely afflicted once our narrator gets to him. And after some cajoling, it comes out that his sister, who was his dearest companion, Roderick's afraid she's dying. Which would leave him as the last Usher, the final Usher, the last of the house of Usher. And on our speaker's first night staying with Roderick, he is informed that indeed Madeline has died. Madeline being Roderick's sister and twin. They spend the next while painting together, reading stories together, making music together. Really, it seems to be our narrator listening to Roderick make music. And one evening, there is a storm during which our narrator wakes, and Roderick enters his chamber distraught. Our speaker attempts to console Roderick by reading to him. But as he does, he keeps hearing strange noises going on in the house. He can't explain it, but Roderick certainly looks like he can explain it. Roderick says he's been hearing the sounds for days now, and now he knows what they are. He says the two of them have buried his sister alive, put her in the tomb alive. And that's the sounds that they're hearing. The noises get louder and louder until the door opens and a bloodied Madeline tackles her brother as she finally really does die. The incident scared Roderick so bad he has a heart attack and he himself dies. Our narrator does not even wait the storm out in the house. He decides to get up and go. And as he is leaving, he sees the house behind him crumbling to the ground, split in twain. So, what are we doing with this story? Let's get into some actual literary criticism here. What's going on in these pages? Well, if I'm just being honest, if I'm being completely honest, it sounds like this house needs a boron detector because it sounds like boron poisoning. The general sense of malaise, the losing weight, the sort of random fits of death. All these things going on. Everyone knows that the place is kind of funny. Even our narrator does not feel good upon stepping on to the premises, upon seeing the house. Sounds like there's a lot of boron in the air. If you're having these types of symptoms in your house, consider getting a boron detector. Just going to put that out there. That is a public service announcement. This will be SCLPSA, Strip Cover Lit Public Service Announcement. Now, the Haunted Palace. We did that. I've never read The Fall of the House of Usher until today. We did a discussion yesterday on The Haunted Palace. I will try to remember to put a reading of The Haunted Palace at the end of this video. But that poem, to me, sounded a lot like the death or the haunting, not of a house, not of a palace, but it seems to me like something more civilization level. You are talking about all of these things going on with a ruler, which we'll get back to later. You're talking about banners. You're talking about all of these things that have disappeared and now people are speaking about them in their absence. It sounds to me, The Haunted Palace, as if we're talking about the fall of a civilization. And it makes me wonder, is that what we're dealing with also in the fall of the House of Usher? Again, that video is previous to this in the Poe playlist, but it's also in the poetry discussion playlist here on the channel. But if you want thoughts on that, there's a whole video on that. I believe it's something like 18 minutes long. And this third point here, while our narrator has Roderick in his room, he's trying to console him. He keeps reading to Roderick, reading to Roderick, reading to Roderick, loud noise, reading to Roderick, loud noise, reading to Roderick, reading to Roderick, loud noise. We get this little snippet here. This is in the story. I've stolen this quote from the pages themselves. And thus I could but partially perceive his features, although I saw that his lips trembled as if he were murmuring inaudibly. His head had dropped upon his breast, yet I knew that he was not asleep, from the wide and rigid opening of the eye as I caught a glance of it in profile. The motion of his body, too, was at variance with this idea, for he rocked from side to side with a gentle yet constant and uniform sway. And I have to ask, is Usher here lost in prayer? Is he praying knowing that his sister is coming back? Is he praying forgiveness because he knows now what he's done? Is he praying that things will go well, as he sort of giving himself his last rites? Does he know? Does he feel the old ticker going? So I think that is an interesting observation in the pages itself that Poe has put in there for us. We talked a little bit in the Telltale Heart video from October about. We talked about how he has some things in there that, as we have come 180 years from its publication, we have come to know that these are the ways that serial killers think. These sort of not blaming themselves, writing all of their wrongs off as things they had to do, just different little things in there about that. The feeling of almost fetishization of what it means to murder, because he is taking the old man to a place in the Telltale Heart that he himself had felt fear, had felt terror. And as he puts the old man in that situation, he laughs. He loves the feeling of power that had come from that. That is a sort of serial killer type of thing to do. How did Poe know that? How did Poe know to put those words on the page? And here we have this this individual who is praying, maybe praying forgiveness, praying his last rites. How does Poe know to put these things on paper as well? And then these are the words that, look, I don't I don't speak Japanese, so I don't know how this is all said right here. These are the lines that intro to the poem. Now, stripped from Google, that translates as his heart or her heart is a poised lute. As soon as it is touched, it resounds. Okay. Sounds kind of just like a nice phrase we might put at the beginning of a story, right? Wrong. Remember, one of the afflictions that from which Roderick is suffering is that certain sounds make him sort of ill. They make it so that he cannot perform, he cannot speak or think, etc. Basically, the only musical sounds that he could stand were the sounds from stringed instruments, meaning here that his heart is a poised lute. As soon as it is touched, it resounds. The minute his heart makes noise, he feels ill. As soon as he hears his heart here, he feels ill. Now, a couple more things that I forgot to put on the document here. What we have in this short story, we've got the Haunted Palace, an entire work that has been recognized as Poe's a poem. He went ahead and put the whole thing here in this short story. We have pointing to the heart and the sound of the heart here with this little quote at the beginning of the story. We have someone being buried alive. This short story sounds like Poe's greatest hits. Even down to the point where we talked a little bit, I think in the Premature Burial, the video on the Premature Burial, about how Poe does not get, or no, it was the Cask of Amontillado. I did a video on the Cask of Amontillado last week, and we talked a little bit about how Edgar Allan Poe does not get the credit he deserves for just fantastic titles. And I think that the Fall of the House of Usher falls into that, ironically, as well, meaning that this is all of the best things that Poe does. This short story is just sort of a collection of all of the greatest poems. Now I want to turn to names for a moment here, a little bit of discussion about names and what they mean. Madeline is a name that means high tower. Roderick is a name that means glory or ruler. Not like measuring tape ruler, but ruler is in powerful ruler, I rule the land. So Madeline's twin, Roderick. Madeline meaning high tower. The high tower has a twin, and it is the ruler. Are we, perhaps, to look at the... So there is a strange connection that has been noted between Roderick and Madeline. Okay, great. They're twins. They're siblings. Siblings have a connection above that which many people share, right? You don't just find someone and start talking to them like your brother or sister. They are the twin towers. They are the twins who are both high towers, I suppose I should say. In the end of the story, the house splits in two. Okay, so we sort of understand some symbolism there. The fall of the House of Usher, by the way, the story, if I'm remembering correctly, takes place in the fall. So the fall of the House of Usher could also be in reference to the time of year being the death, the fall of the House of Usher, not just literally the falling of the pieces of the House of Usher, but the high tower. They're twins. She's called the High Tower, meaning they're both high towers, but Roderick has another name. It is Glory. It is Ruler. These individuals, these ushers, live together. They have no children. Neither of them has a mate. Could we be tempted to read into this short story something incestuous? Could we be tempting? Is it in there? Is there some furtherance of that idea to be taken from the fact that Roderick's name means ruler? He is ruling over her. He is ruling over the house. I don't know. It is an interesting thought to sort of float out there. Maybe there is something to be made in the text. They're both kind of weird individuals, right? So maybe there's something like that there. I don't know. Let's move on to the Writer's Corner portion of this video. I have to say that this short story was a bit muddy to get through. And I don't mean, no pun intended there. This short story felt as if Edgar Allan Poe had written a story and then realized his story though it would fit the requirements for the class, did not fit the word count for the class. So he went back and sort of spruced it up around the edges, right? It reads as if Edgar Allan Poe is getting paid by the word. I cannot say that this is one of my favorite stories from Edgar Allan Poe. I cannot say that this is one of my favorite writing or reading experiences from Edgar Allan Poe. Did that come across to you as well? And the final idea that I have here that I want to talk about from the writer's perspective is this. This is a mixed medium story. It is a short story, but it has a poem therein. It reminds me, so Chuck Palahniuk in Haunted had a group of writers on a writer's retreat who are writing their individual short stories as well. Short stories and poems, I can't remember. Someone has my copy of Haunted, and I can't find it, I think. So, oh well. But that is a mixed medium sort of story as well. I kind of wish there were more mixed medium pieces. I kind of wish there were more novels with short stories in them, novels with poems in them, and short stories with poems in them. After all, it would be difficult to have a short story with a novel in it or a poem with a short story in it, but narrative poems exist. I think that the mixed medium is a way to force your reader to. So there's something in baseball, and I'm not going to get too technical. Don't worry, I'm not a baseball guy, but when the pitch, so you know the strike box. Every batter has his own strike box, and what a pitcher will do is maybe they'll throw a couple pitches high and outside. And what it does is that batter, as he's standing there, sort of subconsciously raises up, changes elevation in his vision, right? And that is called changing elevation. All of a sudden, the pitcher gets to throw a pitch that to that batter will look like it's low. It will look like a ball, but from the strike zone, it's actually a strike. It is a subconscious change of elevation. I think that slipping a poem into a short story is a subconscious change of elevation for a reader. It is one way that a writer can sneak something past that reader, can make that reader think in one way or another, can make a reader really sort of absorb something besides what they would have otherwise been primed to take in. So, for example, we have here this short story that I think, in my opinion, kind of starts to ramble, kind of starts to seem like it's just a whole lot of words on the page until the haunted palace is worked in. When the haunted palace is worked in, that rhythm. So another thing that for which Edgar Allan Poe does not get proper respect is the rhythm with which he could write. The rhythm thrown into this short story lulls us to sleep as we are absorbing all of these weird things happening in that poem. It lulls us into sleep to accept all of these paranormal things that are going on, so that by the time there is a previously dead woman walking around, we just kind of accept it, man. Yeah. So those are the thoughts that I have on the fall of the House of Usher. If you like or appreciate what I do here, it really helps me out if you hit the like button. It tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button in order to stick around for more, because there is always literature to be had on this channel. There's poetry every Monday. There's poetry more often than that, and I am getting into a new type of video creation, video essays, as I did with Dickinson's Darkest Poem. So if you Want to stick around? Do so. Or don't. Look, it's up to you. In the greenest of our valleys, by good angels tenanted, once a fair and stately palace, radiant palace, reared its head. In the monarch thought's dominion it stood there. Never seraph spread a pinion over fabric half so fair. Banners yellow, glorious, golden, on its roof did float and flow. This, all this, was in the olden time, long ago. And every gentle air that dallied in that sweet day, along the ramparts plumbed and pallid, a winged odor went away. Wanderers in that happy valley through two luminous windows saw spirits moving musically to a lute's well-tuned law, round about a throne where, sitting, Porphyrogene, in state his glory well befitting, the ruler of the realm was seen. And all with pearl and ruby glowing was the fair palace door, through which came flowing, and sparkling evermore, a troop of echoes whose sweet duty was but to sing, in voices of surpassing beauty, the wit and wisdom of their king. But evil things in robes of sorrow assailed the monarch's high estate. Ah, let us mourn, for never morrow shall dawn upon him desolate. And round about his home the glory that blushed and bloomed is but a dim remembered story of the old time entombed. And travelers, now within that valley, through the red-litten windows see vast forms that move fantastically to a discordant melody, while, like a ghastly rapid river through the pale door, a hideous throng rush out forever and laugh, but smile no more.